This hangout on air is live. So here we are again, and I have a few friends with me, which is marvelous. And I'm Richard Lang, and I'm in London, and I enjoy hanging out with others who are conscious of being headless and space for the world. So I'm going to start by inviting my friends here just to introduce themselves. I'll start with Karen.
Hi everyone, hi. I'm in Holland. Beautiful day today. I was on my bike ride sitting in a cafe and listening to the conversation and just wondering if everybody would know who they were, if the conversations would be different. And I thought, probably not. Probably not. That's the funny thing about it, you know, nothing really changes, and yet everything changed by just seeing this empty space that I really am here at the core.
Lovely, thank you. Sequoia?
Yes, my name is Sequoia Star. I live on the Oregon coast, and I've been enjoying headlessness for a number of months now, and I find it to be the one experience that I have that doesn't have to be explained, and that is a wonderful, wonderful thing in my life.
Lovely, thank you, Sequoia. Barbara?
Hi, I'm Barbara. I live in West Virginia, United States of America, and I was introduced to the Headless Way through the Finder's course, and it was one of the more powerful techniques that was introduced to us in the course, and I certainly found it to be that way. And I've been sticking with it ever since. So I'm relatively new. I've been a headless wonder for about 6 weeks now, and I'm finding that it's contagious. This morning, before I even got out of bed, I was having a conversation with my husband, who is not at all interested in headlessness or much of any of the spiritual journey, but he's been very supportive of me and interested. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the conversation, he said, "Well, I am you," and I was so excited that somehow he understood that he is me and I am him in the void. So that was pretty awesome. So I started my day very well, and
it
now
makes
it's
a difference, doesn't it, Barbara, to hear that from someone?
It does. It's just amazing to hear somebody who hasn't gone to your website or read a book or anything. He's just been living with me during this period of time, and he's heard me say to him, "I am you." But this morning he came back, and I thought that was really cool.
Beautiful. Doug?
Hi, I'm Doug. I'm from Colorado in the United States. I had first encountered the Headless Way in 6 years ago through the Urban Guru Cafe and Catherine Harding, and then later Douglas Harding's books, and later Richard's experiments on the website, and more books, and now these hangouts. So it's been a wonderful complement to the other aspects of my growth process.
Lovely, thank you, Doug. Tommy?
Hiya, everyone. My name is Tommy or Thomas or Tom, Big T, and I am from London originally, but I'm currently living in Italy, and I've been playing around with headlessness for about 6 weeks. No, probably a lot longer. I'm a newbie, and although I've been experiencing more and more I've been resonating with headlessness more and more over the last few weeks. I wouldn't say it's been a constant feeling of headlessness. I say I started off quite dubious about it, but having heard so many people I trusted speak about it, was willing to give it a shot. And then I got into it, and I thought, well, that's a strange idea. And then I started to get flickers of it, and the more I spend, the more I look at it, the more it becomes me, and the more I like it. And just hearing the language that people use when describing headlessness is really quite lovely. And I've always been seeking a kind of spiritual solution. And when I go back and I look at some of the literature I read in the past, I find that a lot of the language that people around me, headless people near me, use sounds very much like Zen stuff. And that Zen literature I read, I really kind of resonate with it a bit more, and it seems to vindicate a lot of the things I've read in the past. And I also like what somebody else said about how it's an experience that is just so simple. It's so simple. It's kind of like you don't really need to explain it, and that's just lovely. Whereas other practices I've looked at, I had to work hard, or I had to beat against a brick wall. This is just here now, and it's effortless, and that's wonderful. That's what I find wonderful about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. So, any reflections on the middle or front burner about headlessness at the moment in your lives that you would care to share?
I'll share a brief experience in that regard. Yesterday, I had a chance to meet a friend for breakfast and share seeing together, and the sharing of it is always a wonderful experience and an opportunity.
Yes, which is why we're here, I guess, to share and exchange our reflections about this experience, which, as Tommy was saying, you can't explain. It is utterly simple. But let me just, for anyone who hasn't done it, an experiment, just do an experiment. We can all just notice you can't see your own face. And I can see mine on the screen there. I can see everybody else's, but this side of the screen is this open space, call it single eye. If you are watching and you want to do that, you put your hands back and they, from your point of view, disappear into open space. And you're looking out of a single eye. And that's the experience that we're talking about. And you can check it out anytime you like.
Well said.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the experiments, I went to the headless.org website yesterday because it's been a while since I kind of went through all of the experiments that are there on the first page, and I rediscovered the closed eye experiment, which for some reason, of all of the ones on there, well, many of which just literally blow my mind, the closed eye experiment just is so, I don't know, it just takes me to that place in a way that, some of the other ones don't. As soon as I start going through the closed eye experiment, I am right there in my center and experiencing somehow both being a human body and being far, far larger and more amazing than a human body. Yes. So I just wanted to point people to those experiments because they really are remarkable.
Yeah, that experiment, closed eyes, Barbara, for me, it resolved a few misunderstandings I had for a long time, like giving thought a special place or giving feelings a special place in everything I'm experiencing. But it's all in there. It's all in there. All this whole tapestry of mix woven of thought, feelings, body sensations, colors, sounds, the whole bunch. And that was a real eye-opener, that they're all alike in a way, and they're all happening every moment, and nothing needs to be excluded. Like thinking is not wrong. How many people say, oh, you know, when the mind comes in, uh-oh, you're on the wrong track, but it's not true at all.
Right.
Yeah. A good friend hanging in there too.
What we could do is, perhaps I'll lead it, but we could do a very brief closed eye experiment. But we could all contribute. So I'll set the ball rolling. What we'll do, and the viewer, if you're watching, can join us in this, is we'll close our eyes and then we'll just explore briefly what it's like. And it's nice to hear different people's voices. So I'll just kick the ball off. But as soon as you like, please join in. So close your eyes and notice you don't see the room anymore, or wherever you are, and you see a darkness. And on present evidence, and I'm asking myself and all of us here, can you say how big you are? So please reply, please join in.
No.
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 And when you hear these voices, aren't they all of the voices happening in this boundless consciousness? Is that true?
Yeah.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I don't find I can say one voice is inside me and the others are outside. They're all within this silence here.
Right.
Yes.
And if you pay attention to your body sensations, do they actually, on present evidence, limit you?
No, not at all.
No.
And
Definitely.
pardon?
I'm definitely not limited to the physical body.
No. Isn't that wonderful? To be in this space in which the sounds are coming and going, and there's a darkness and flecks of light, and thoughts and feelings, like Karen was saying, are emerging and disappearing in this unchanging space, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, open your eyes again. And to me, all that changes is this space that was full of a darkness is now full of colors. But it's still full of thoughts and feelings and sensations. But none of this limits me. But all of this arrives in this space and is very welcome.
I think Sorry, go ahead.
I think the one thing that headlessness, the one constant with it that I've experienced is that expanded awareness and that sense of expanded self, and it's something that I can carry with me at all times. Prior to headlessness, I did identify with myself being in a body, and now I'm acutely aware that my body is inside myself. And my self no longer fits inside a body.
Never did. I think it's such a neat way of putting it. Am I in my body, or is my body in me? Am I in this room, or is this room in me? Well, for others, I'm in the room. For me, the room's in me.
It's astounding, is it? I mean, I can't. Yeah, it's just astounding.
I am room for room.
It is astounding, isn't it? And we're not going by memory. We're taking a fresh look. And you can't prove this to others. You have to look for yourself. You point and have a look at the place you're looking out of. And is there anything there? Or is there room, space, capacity for the whole universe?
I have a question. As the new guy, well, I feel like the new guy. I always am the new guy. I see. But I was wondering, reading Douglas Harding's book, he spoke of there wasn't really a moment for him when it just went from boom one to the other. He realized, and it was more of a deepening, whereas and other experiences reinforced this feeling from time to time. I was wondering if there are parts. Do you find that parts of your day come in where you're not headless, and you're back to being your headed selves, a head full of steam or whatever? Because I remember hearing Douglas talk about it once. He said something really astounded me. He goes, Douglas can behave very badly, he says. Douglas can be he gets up to murder sometimes, but from this space that doesn't happen. Do you ever fall back? I mean, of course you must fall back into being yourselves, back with heads again normally, or do you find that less and less you have a head and more you're headless?
Well, all the time, I would say, all the time. But then it's so wonderful to step back as well. You see, the whole world, when it communicates with me as if I were a person. So I am that too. There's no denial, and I start believing in it many times until saying, oh, no. And usually, my feelings warn me, then I'm not starting to feel so well.
Right.
Yeah, I would say that, and I don't know if it's just because I'm new, but I know when I first was introduced to the Headless Way, I had so many questions. Like, well, of course I have a head. I can feel it. I can see it in the mirror. I was a classic duh. But so it did take a while for me to kind of put aside my beliefs and my assumptions, and just go, as Richard says, on present evidence. What is your experience, and to kind of stay more with my experience than with my beliefs and past history. So for me, it was. But once I kind of made the flip, it became easier and easier. And I remember one of the exercises I think that I saw on a video. I think it was with you, Richard, where there was someone in a group setting who was really having trouble letting go of her head, and you said you had her pointing slowly up her body, and getting up to where she couldn't really see her hand anymore, and then she just had to just take that final step of realizing that there was nothing there above her bottom line. And I remember doing that myself in a meditation session where I was walking up my body, and then it was like I fell into a sinkhole. And literally I had the experience of falling into that hole.
Yes.
And finding everything there, and
Yes.
so, but it doesn't. I don't walk around 24/7 feeling that way. I don't know if I'd be able to function. as a human being if I did.
It's a very good question, Tommy. Very important question.
And the thought, for me, I see it very much the way I think Tommy was suggesting. This is an ever deepening, greater understanding, greater expression, and I think it's immensely practical. I think that's a question that many people have is so what? And I think the so what about it is the process that Barbara was describing in many ways as a journey of self-empowerment, right? Am I willing to trust my own life, my own experience, and my own sense perceptions? Am I willing to take those as my home base and my ground, or would I prefer that the safety net of the third-person social constructs, of the expectations of me, of the world that we all agree exists, because the process that we're going through here, reinterprets who we are as individuals. It reinterprets my world, and I find that to be enormously practical in every aspect of my life. I mean, I couldn't find a single way where being more attuned and having greater clarity of perception and thought isn't simply a basic skill that I need for everything I do.
Yes.
Yeah. And it really, I think, what I find so amazing about it is that it doesn't seem to conflict with anything. It doesn't come in. It doesn't crash in against anything I've learned or anything anyone's doing, any religion anybody has, or any beliefs about spirituality. It doesn't seem to. There's no. I don't know what the word is. There's no confrontation between it. And I've often said in our hangouts that I do kind of sitting meditation, and I was sitting the other night, and without really wanting to, I was kind of concentrating on my breath. I got a cheeky hour in yesterday, concentrating on my breath, and as I was doing it, I just became aware that I kind of went through a headless experience. I was aware that my head wasn't there in the dark, and that the world began out there, and the world came in towards here, and it went past my skin, and it went through into me, and there was no boundary between me and the world, but I was still able to be aware of all of this while I was just concentrating on my breath. And I thought, this doesn't contradict anything. In fact, it's the real meat and the potatoes. It gets right down to the nuts and bolts of the whole reason I'm sitting in the first place. And I felt like Tommy wasn't there, but I knew Tommy would be waiting for me when I came and I stood up again, so I didn't have to worry. I knew it wasn't total annihilation.
Yes.
So I was able to just and the best way to describe it, and I think the thing that scares people the least, is when you say it's fun. And I heard Douglas say that. He says, above all, this is fun. And I remember thinking, this is fun, because I get to slip out of being me and then slip back in, and I get to do whatever I want. I get to have my cake and eat it,
Very good.
That's exactly what I mean, Tommy, that in another response, that this seeing, I don't need to hold on to anything because it's right there. The moment I open my eyes to it, I see that's the case. And it's not a construct or nothing. Needs to be held together. So it's lovely to relax in that.
And the more I do it, the more I want to do it.
Yes.
One of the things I appreciate is those of us who wear glasses.
Yeah.
Several times a day, I get to see that those two eyes becoming one eye. And say, oh, hello, awareness. There you are. I have a prop that works really well.
Actually, I started feeling a little bit sorry for people that don't have glasses. It's true.
I was talking to someone this week, and he had corresponded with me a bit. He's going to be on a hangout later today, I think. Spanish guy. His English is not great, but I don't speak Spanish at all. And we had a video hangout. It was the first video hangout he'd ever done. He's not an internet person. And it was the first time he'd met anyone else who was seeing. And it was delightful. You could see his absolute joy and surprise and astonishment. And he was saying, you know, the thing is that his glasses sit there, kind of hang there, this oval, as you were saying, Barbara, right in the middle of a single eye, which of course it does. Yeah. We had a video hangout this morning, and one of the things that occurred to me, it's occurred to me before, but it came over fresh, was that this is just the way things are. You're space for the world. It's not something that you hype yourself up into, or it's just the way it is, whether you know it, whether you are conscious of it or not. And what goes along with that, therefore, is that everybody is this. And others you see from the outside, you see their heads. But you know that they're in the same condition as you, as being space for the world. And, you know, sometimes you kind of, if you seeing I've got a head is kind of going, you know, putting myself in your shoes and seeing myself from your position. But I know you're looking out of the nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't going to be too many pauses on this Hangout while I'm on. I normally, if there's a pause, I jump in and I speak. But there was another issue I wanted to raise, and it's the one I always raise. I raise it again and again and again, so I keep coming back to it because I'm such a doubter. And I think it's because maybe my mother called me Thomas. I was a born doubter. But I'm such a... I was just thinking doubting is actually a very important thing to discuss, because you've got to imagine that every one of us who came to headlessness, certainly me, but all of us at some point, we must have gone, really? At some point. We must have all said, really? I don't know about that. We must have all done it at some point before we got here. And so I think it's interesting to look at that. Once you're in it, you don't doubt it anymore, but from the outside, you do. So making that transition is a very bizarre step for me, going from doubt to feeling very secure in headlessness, because, well, it's not only because I made the jump, but because I keep jumping between both of them, between doubt, continually up until today. And the other point I was thinking, I mean, at the start you're thinking, you know, I'm sure maybe they just want to enlist millionaires so that they can brainwash and get money out of them, you know? Maybe this is what they did at the beginning. Actually, that's why I'm here today. Richard said he was going to give me a few quid if we were going to brainwash some millionaires. No, I was thinking that I'm a stickler for scientific proof, you know, and I go around and I read books, and I'm always looking for the hard link between spirituality and science, and I look at it all the time, and I won't accept anything unless I get it. And I just found myself saying more and more with headlessness is, I don't need any proof at all. I don't need anything now. I've got it all here. And that's it. I don't need it. We can all knock off early. Draw a line under it. I've got it all here.
Yes, this is the meeting after all that hard work. We've knocked off, and we're just enjoying being headless now. I mean, the thing is, Tommy, it is doubting, continuing to doubt, I think, what you're told about yourself, or rather sorting out, you know, I'm Richard for you, and I'm Richard somewhere in the world, but here at Centre I'm space for everything, including Richard. So you don't kind of rest on a belief, do you? In this moment now, you have a fresh look because you might be wrong, and you say, right, I'm going to have a fresh look at the place I'm looking out on, and I can't take anybody else's word for it, not even my own a minute ago. I'm going to have a fresh look. What am I? And that's where the experiments are so powerful. They get you not to think about it, but to actually look. Yes.
Yeah. And it's such a good laugh.
And that's so great, because anytime I look, I see something new or something else in these experiments. And that's, you know, it's not really a depth, because what I see is what I get. But there's so many sides to it, and that keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
Like we had this head of stress course, and I promised myself I was going to do all the experiments in the book, not just reading about them, but doing them. And it was so enriching and so fun that I saw, anytime I did it, I saw a new aspect, and I was thrilled about it.
We had a video hangout a few days ago, and somebody took us through the closed eye experiment, and she did it in her own way, which is brilliant, you know. And one of the things the questions, which I hadn't heard anyone say in quite that way, which you can do with your eyes open, is if you pay attention to the feeling of your clothes now, the sensation of your clothes, where's the boundary? Is there a boundary between your skin and your clothes? Well, I mean, it's all here in you or something. There's no dividing line. And oh gosh, how amazing. You just kind of, from nothing, you kind of become your clothes. And then, of course, there's no dividing line between that sensation and the world. You know? So new things coming up.
Yes, new things coming up. And another new thing that came up, I find that I don't have to I don't know if you know what I'm saying, but I don't have to defend myself anymore, because here, at zero distance from where I am, there's nothing there. There's nothing to defend. So I don't have to put up anything against you guys or anyone else or even the guy who cuts me up in traffic. There's nothing between me and him.
I know. It's very safe here, and
one of the things that that really appealed to me when I was first exploring this, and that still resonates with me, and I do it several times a day, is noticing that at my center all is well all the time. And it's so different from the way I the human being feel in the world. I don't always feel that all is well all the time, but that reminder of that, you know, that my center is there and that it never changes, and nothing that goes on in the outside world can damage it, harm it, destroy it, make it disappear. It's just always there. It's my isness. It just, you're right. It's very comforting. It feels great.
absolutely fantastic.
And you know, Barbara, that's where I am too. I mean, what you're describing, this space is safe, but it's my home. It's where I am.
Yeah.
What a fortunate happening or coincidence. I don't know, but isn't that marvelous?
It is.
And it's what we all have in common, isn't it? You know, I don't know how to explain it, but we have this in common. And our communication about this, well, our communication, we might miscommunicate, but the actual experience we're talking about is there's no way that we can differ about it. And so, gosh, what a fantastic thing to be conscious of having in common.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
I think there's a variation on the experiments, and it's one of the experiments that the Hangout itself, I think, makes fairly clear, which is the question: how many voices do I have?
Mm.
Not only am I space for your voice, but increasingly to me, I have many voices,
Mm.
and I love listening to them all.
Mm.
You know, and mine's one of them, but I love having many voices. It really is a great burden lifted of having to be a voice and come from a voice and come from a space. If I just don't have to do that anymore.
I know what you mean. It's like being let out of school somehow, isn't it? You know, you're being let out of this restricted identity, and you don't lose that one. You just suddenly are let out into the playground, and all the voices are yours. Yeah.
I think we have a slight delay on here. I don't know, is anyone else experiencing that?
Sometimes that happens, yes.
Yeah, because your voice is not totally synced with your video, but I don't know if that's going to show up on the recording or whatever. I was just going to say another thing which seemed to me, which was, although I kind of feel this totally different person, and the feelings, and even dealing with tough stuff in life, like, you know, overwhelming feelings and stuff, it does put those feelings into a wonderful perspective when I look at this space. And paradoxically, you would expect that would mean detachment and coldness from things, but it's not like that. It's not like that at all. Realizing that these feelings, even fears, even negative feelings, are in this space, only makes me want to reach out to others more. And because I don't know, something about the fact that perhaps we're both sharing this same space. And if you're so caught up in those emotions and not realizing they're in the space, then you're probably not having a great time, you know. And maybe we can kind of reach out and connect across this space, and it will be better for everybody.
Yeah, so sometimes the language makes it sound as though you'd be detached and not involved. You know, your space for the world, you're just space. It sounds as though you wouldn't be engaged. But as you say, Tommy, the actual experience is the reverse. Everything is here at no distance. Everything, you could say, is in you, is yourself. And that it brings forth typically a deeper involvement and engagement and feeling for others. Yes. And such respect, isn't it? Because because the experience is non-verbal, and we've all got it, and you can't get a bit of it. You cannot doubt that we've all got it. I mean, it just doesn't cross your mind. I mean, it's just a given, and therefore everyone's expression here is a fascinating, valid, of course, genuine expression from this place. And so one, I think, now listens with interest to different expressions rather than waiting to put them right. Show them the error of their ways. You know, it's not like that at all. You can think, wow, that's an interesting way of putting it. I can see where you're coming from. That's really interesting new view.
Right. I remember one of our favorite Hangout folks, Sam from Perth, Australia. I jotted this one down because I thought it was so wonderful. Is that at my center, I am relieved from responsibility for judging myself or others. Wow. What a great concept. I love how, you know, people who've been living with this perspective for for a while just have these amazing ways of expressing it, and
Yes.
yeah.
But so do you, Barbara. I understand what you're saying there in terms of people who've been living with this for a while. But for us who have been, as it were, for a start, it's only now. But it is just so marvelous to meet new people who express it so uniquely and so freshly in ways you'd never imagine. I don't feel any difference between you and me in terms of the genuineness of our experience of this and coming from this, But,
well, I am you, Richard.
well, there you go, you see.
Of course you recognize me.
Isn't it wild? Yeah.
I love it. I love being you. That's...
Yeah, yes. I made a little film which I put on YouTube this week about the 4 stages, and the baby, the child, the adult, and the seer. And it was interesting to make because it got me to. I'm back.
Carry on. Carry on.
Yes, this film I made was interesting to do because it got me to think about.
I think you should leave that in. I think don't edit that out. Okay, make sure you leave that in.
Would you excuse me? I'm busy being headless right now. Can I call you back?
This is the world calling. The world is calling.
Right. Yes, that's right.
The next time that phone's going out the window, I think.
Yeah.
No.
Well, it got me to think more about the 4 stages, and I got some correspondence back from it, and people, on the one hand, just remembering how open they were as a child before they got in the box, and how you can see it in children. Some of those images I used, you look at the child and you say, no question about it, they're just wide open. And they're looking in the mirror, there's one photo there, and it's obvious that little girl is not thinking that's her. She's kissing the mirror. She's kissing the other infant there. And then as you grow up, you see yourself from the outside. But it's a totally natural process that you kind of go out in imagination and look back at yourself, and you must do it. It's not a mistake to identify with who you are in the mirror and who you are for others. It's just a really vital, precious thing to become responsible and aware of yourself as an individual. But then what interests me is that the 4th stage of the seer is as natural a phase or part of the journey as that 3rd stage, that it's just absolutely natural, having gone out and overlooked your space and see yourself from outside, to reintegrate and this space and now have both. And it's not as if you're now denying that you're a person, that you're a person. Of course, that's ridiculous. But now you're privately aware of being space and publicly a person. And this is a natural, wholly natural thing. And in a way, if you don't become aware of your space, you kind of stop short on the journey and you're not really enjoying what the whole thing could be.
Mm.
It's natural, it's normal, it's sane to kind of reawaken to this openness, which was always there, of course.
Yeah. It's sane. I like that word. It's sane because, and you realize that living, I can click on these videos now and I can pull up just an image on the screen of just me. I'm doing it now. I've got on my screen, there's just me on the screen now. And, it's insane to just think I'm that guy. If that's all I am, and then if I'm running around just living from that guy to the exclusion of all else, Well, I just find that I'm bumping in. I won't go into it too deeply, but I'm bumping up against stuff all the time. But if I look here, sane is a great word of describing it. And what you say about the 4 stages is very interesting. I'm very blessed and very lucky to be an English teacher, and I'm very lucky to work with kids. And I work with 11-year-olds and I work with 9-year-olds. And they are magical beings because I'm constantly in an exchange with children, passing knowledge to them passing back to me. And it's again a wordless experience. The children are inspiring for this fact.
Yes.
That they are in this space, and for them it's the most natural thing. Or if they've left the space, you can see them becoming teenagers and leaving the space gradually more and more behind them, and becoming more aware of this identity of them. Even if they've left the space, they didn't leave it very long ago. You know, they were quite recently they were in that space, and it's not too difficult for them, even entering, becoming teenagers, to hop back to that space again. And so having the opportunity 2 or 3 times a week to spend an hour and a half with kids is one of the things that keeps me sane and looking out of this third eye, I think.
Well, Judy told this morning in the other hangout that she, in a university gathering, she showed a mirror to, I think, high school children and then university students. And all the high school children said, she asked the question, "Where's your face?" And then everybody from the high school still pointed at the mirror, "It's there." And then the university students, most of them pointed here. Then I remembered myself, I thought, hey, it must have been in my 20s that I still wasn't solemnly identified with my image in the mirror. It must have been this constant pressure from society, you know, that it keeps on pushing that image onto me, is it? Yeah, it's such a blessing to find this back, this the way it really is, just by looking. My God, it's just like you say, it's refinding my sanity.
Yes, and children, I mean, once you've understood what's happening, that you start the journey headless and open, and then you kind of go outside and half are in out with the children, and then as an adult you're kind of all out and not aware of this, and then in the 4th stage you're both, and then that makes sense of things. And like the child, then you realize is, oh, I know where they're at. They're kind of moving between inside and outside. How fluid! I think I'll join in that. You know, that is so creative, so playful. We marvelous. And as in the 4th stage, it's kind of the same, isn't it? You're kind of both in and out. You're exchanging all the time.
And isn't there a point for all of us, and where we just become utterly bored with our personalities?
Sick to death of it.
I'm just tired of living with myself. I'd rather be you.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, but it's like being let out of school, like being freed from a cage.
Well, we have to be careful. If this really catches on, they'll tax it.
Yeah. Oh, I think we've got Matthew joining us.
Oh, and now he's gone again.
Oh, maybe he's just an hour too late.
Yeah.
Maybe you got the times wrong.
Yes, he shows up dutifully 5 minutes ahead of time.
So,
headlessness doesn't make you 100% efficient. Thank God.
Right.
Do you think-
Well,
do you
I
think
wanted
you
to.
ever-
I wanted to. Oh, go on, Tommy.
No, please, please.
Oh,
Barbara.
just I was going to tell you in one of our earlier meetings we were talking about how to talk about this with other people and how challenging it can be to to figure out how to start the conversation or sort of present it in a way that doesn't make them run screaming into the night. But I figured out something. A friend of mine is having a birthday next week, and I asked her what she wanted for her birthday, and she said, "Well, can you share something with me? Share something from your life, a perspective, a book, something that's really meaningful to you." And I said, "Aha!" And so for her birthday, I sent her an email with a link to your website and just a description of my own personal experience with it, and with the caveat that not everything is going to work for everybody, so there's no guarantees that you will resonate with this, but I guarantee that it will be something you have never encountered before, and that and so I sent it off to her, and last night she called me and said, "Oh my God, what a great birthday present!" So anyway,
Wonderful.
so there's one way. You don't have to necessarily do it in a cafe and take the chance that someone will run out on the bill. But
Yes, I mean, Barbara, first of all, what a wonderful kind of thing for your friend to say. I mean,
yeah.
That's unusual. And secondly, sounds like that hit the target in some way.
Well, yeah, she hadn't had a chance to get into it yet, but
You'll see.
Just she was very excited that that I would share something like that with her, and I was pleased that she asked. So yes, it was a win-win situation.
Lovely. Anything else that's on your mind before we end?
I've had a great time.
Yeah.
I love one of the things I love about these groups is that we laugh a lot. I mean, there's all these smiling faces. These are happy people. Now, there's a lesson, there's a message there somewhere that these are happy people in this headless world.
Wonderful.
Well said.
Yes. And what I like to say is what you said this morning, Richard. That's so true, that there's no master here who says the right thing, and we're all listening to the one authority who, has gotten it right, and we are trying to achieve it too, or anything like it. But this is an equality, no equanimity, also not. We're all equal,
Yeah.
and it's a true sharing, and that's so beautiful and so unusual. Because when I look around in spiritual land, it's all masters and authorities and students and learning processes and long things. And this is just a bunch of friends sharing their perspective.
Yes.
So beautiful and so revolutionary. Yes.
Mm. It is, yes. Yes. You there, Sequoia, still?
Yes, I'm still here. I'm enjoying
Making space
the
for us
conversation.
all?
Yes, I am. I'm enjoying the conversation, and haven't been moved to speak. I've really enjoyed listening to the space being filled with the other voices, and that's a wonderful process in itself.
Yeah.
Not too entertaining on my end, but
Lovely to have you here. Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Great to have you all in the space. We're going to drop down below the bottom line in a moment. Wonderful, and we will do this again, and just yeah, it's great, great basis of friendship, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
All
Well,
right.
thank you, Richard, for making it happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks,
See you all
Richard.
again soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
It was
Bye-bye.
lovely seeing you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.